Hi, y'all. Did you hear me? Welcome. Are you excited? I love it. I love the enthusiasm. My name's Rod Bigelow. I'm the executive director of Crystal Bridges in the Momentary, and I am super excited to welcome you to an afternoon with Al Roker. That's what you're here for, right? It is a program that's presented in partnership with our friends and longtime collaborators, the Bentonville Film Festival. Are you having fun so far? Over the years, the collaboration has brought powerful storytelling and inclusive voices to our community, hosting marquee conversations like this one right here at Crystal Bridges, which complements all the activities of the Bentonville Film Festival headquarters that is at the Momentary, our sister organization. I hope to see you at the Momentary this week, whether you're there to eat or to talk or see a screening. Don't forget to visit the galleries. They're really impressive photography show right now. So please find your way to the Momentary if you haven't been there. I'm especially looking forward to this Saturday's morning story time with Geena Davis and Elmo. I never thought I could see Elmo in person, so I'm super excited. It's a perfect example about how this festival brings joy and meaning to all ages, and it's a win-win for all of us in Bentonville, and it's a win for our shared goals of access, inclusion, and creativity. Today, we are especially grateful for all of our sponsors for today's talk, including Andrea Albright and Patrick Bannon, Demra Teitzer, Kelly and John David Rainey, and our live streaming partner, Arkansas PBS in the back. Today has already been a very busy one for Al, where he was joined by Dan Scoff, our own KNW. He is a celebrity. My wife is in love with him, so I can't show him on TV. But Al hosted over 200 kids, getting a sneak peek of the upcoming PBS Kids show, Weather Hunters, and some covert summer STEM education. It was inspiring to see how engaged that group was, and they kept Al on his toes, I promise. And now it's my great honor to introduce Geena Davis, the driving force behind the Bentonville Film Festival. Geena is one of Hollywood's most respected actors, a See, I'm not an actor. Have you watched those scenes where they all sit up here and they read a script and they don't make a mistake at all? That's not me. She is a trailblazing two-time Academy winner and a passionate advocate for equity in entertainment. She's known for her iconic roles in Thelma and Louise, A League of Their Own, Beetlejuice, and my favorite, The Fly. The Fly came out in 1986. I was a freshman in college, and I was smitten from the moment I saw this very grounded, emotionally grounded, intellectual, empathetic woman watching her partner go through this beastly transition, and she held it together the whole time. So I became a fan, as many, many young men across the country, to be honest. Geena is the founder and chair of the Geena Davis Institute, which works to reinvent, transform, and inspire how global content creators and media tell stories through authentic portrayals of the population in entertainment. The Institute received the Television Academy's Board of Governors Award in 2022. And of course, Geena is the chair of the Bentonville Film Festival, launched in 2015 to champion underrepresented voices in film and media. BFF's goal is for the people. It just keeps going, Geena. This is the short version. BFF's goal is for the people in the front and behind the camera reflect diverse and half female world we live in. Welcome, Geena.
Oh my gosh. That That was way too much information. Wow. Hello, everybody. What a thrill to see such a packed audience. This is very exciting. I am so happy to be able to welcome you to this very special event at the 11th Annual Bentonville Film Festival. Yeah. Thank you. It is hard to believe we have come this far from starting in 2015 in a town with no movie theaters to launch a film festival. It was a bold idea, and it is now a growing movement, dynamic, and it's all about inclusion in the media. And the festival was founded with one core belief, that entertainment should simply reflect the population that we live in, rich with untold stories. So over the past 11 years, we have screened hundreds of films from voices that often go unheard, and we've worked with some of the industry's most courageous storytellers to shift the narrative in front of and behind the camera. And today, this event is a shining example of that spirit. So we are very honored to be gathering here at the Crystal Bridges Museum, surrounded by art and nature and community, and having a conversation with one of America's most beloved and enduring figures in broadcasting. Whether it's tracking storms or bringing sunshine to our mornings, he has been a fixture in our lives for decades. So please join me in welcoming the incredible Sharonda Williams, who will be leading today's conversation, and the one and only Al Roker.
Oh, by the way, Rod, I'm going to see your fly. I'll raise you one. I fell in love with Geena Davis when she played Wendy Killian in Buffalo Bill on NBC, on the sitcom Buffalo Bill. I remember it had a heck of a cast. Sorry, Sharonda.
It's okay. So I'll hop right into it. You know, one of the things that I've admired about you is that you've remained a staple in American media for multiple decades. I want to know, what's the secret to staying relevant and resonant across so many different generations?
Oh gosh, I really don't know. I mean, I think Willard Scott was my mentor, who did the Today Show before me. I first met him in 1976. In Washington, D.C. I was working at another the NBC station, at the Fox station. He was at the NBC station, and he kind of took me under his wing. And over the course of our friendship, he had said early on, he said, listen, because to be honest, I was trying to be Willard early on. And he said, without calling me out, he said, you should always be yourself, because everybody else is taken. And so, that's kind of, for better or for worse, that's who I've been. And I think I've been very fortunate to work with really good people, So a rising tide floats all boats, So if you work with really good folks, odds are, if you're halfway decent, you'll do well too. So that's, that's not been by choice, it's just been by luck and happenstance. But I've worked with really great broadcast journalists. So, and I happen to be married to one, Deborah Roberts at ABC News.
You transcended the role of just being a weatherman. I want to know, what was that moment when you realized that your influence went beyond just the forecast?
Well, listen, it sounds a little, I have no idea. I mean, it's like, well, let me tell you why I'm important. I'm unbelievable. No, listen, Sharonda, I've been very, again, fortunate that I've worked for people or worked with people that said, okay, you can do more than just weather. And a lot of it has to do with just raising your hand. When somebody doesn't want to do something, you say, "Oh, I'll do that." And so I've always been kind of curious about things. So I like doing stuff. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I never planned to be on TV. I was going to work in TV. I wanted to be a director or producer, something like that. In fact, my very first performance in television performance in college for a class, my department chairman told me that I had the perfect face for radio. So that's a true story. And yet, he's the guy, when I was toward the end of my sophomore year, put me up for a weekend weather job at the local CBS station in Syracuse. And I had taken one class in meteorology just for a science requirement, but I had no plans of doing TV weather. I mean, let's face it, most of the TV weather people, with the exception of Dan Scoff, look kind of goofy, So that's the deal. I don't know if I even answered your question.
I think you gave me a lot there.
Did I? Yeah.
You did.
There's something in there. You'll watch it back. You'll say, "Oh yeah, it'll be fantastic."
But you've always made science feel so personal. I remember just watching it, like, I know we're talking about the news, but like, I'm getting choked up here. You found a way to bring emotional storytelling while also like blending science into that. So I want you to talk about like how you've learned to craft that and bring that to our screens for so many years.
Well, listen, I think one of the things, especially when we're covering storms and severe weather, if you're not careful, it can be almost like a scorecard. And you got to remember, and look, we're here at Crystal Bridges a little more than a year ago, or right around now. You had a really bad tornado in this area, and we report on that, and we show the video, but the fact of the matter is, these are your lives, your livelihood, your communities. And so I think it's important to remember that communities are not only torn apart by this, but come together by it. We've done a number of stories where we've followed in after either a hurricane or a tornado or a major blizzard, and communities, and the stories that always impress me are the folks invariably who have lost everything and yet are still volunteering to help others. It's hard not to get choked up about that, and to realize that at the end of the day, we are our brother/sisters keepers, and so we try to portray that. It's not us doing it, but shining a light and a mirror up to it.
Now, how has it's okay to go.
That was a lovely tepid response. Thank you.
Now, has that relationship to storytelling changed as you've gotten older with the digital platforms?
Gotten older?
As you've gotten younger.
Well, let me tell you, Sharonda, I remember back in the day, we didn't have a radar. We had a guy named Bob up on a roof. And we'd say, "What's happening, Bob?" And he'd say, "Oh, I see some clouds coming. I'm not sure if it's raining or not." And then lightning hit Bob, and we didn't know what to do.
I'm going to pay dearly for that.
My wife is going to see that and go, "Why would you do that? Why?" I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I don't even remember what the question was. Could you repeat that?
I feel like I owe you an apology now.
No, you don't. Please. My kids said to me the other day, my daughter Leela said, we live in a brownstone. We got stairs. She goes, "Dad, when are you and Mom going to move out of here? You're really getting old now."
Not old enough for you to take my money.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I bet you're sorry you signed up for this. Whose idea was that for you, Sharonda? I'm sorry.
I'm having the inner battle. Do I continue with the question or do I just move on?
Go back with the question. Go, you do you.
You know what?
You plow ahead.
I dug my grave. I'm going to get in it, and I'm just going to still ask the question.
Okay. There was something about old and changing technology.
As you grow younger,
Yes. I'm like Benjamin Button.
you know, with the evolution of, you know, the platforms going from analog to digital, now everything's social, you know, how has your view of storytelling changed?
You know, it's interesting that you say that because I don't think it has. I think, you know, the technology changes, but people don't change. People still want to connect with people, I think. You know, and you know, and I don't care whether, you know, like people say, oh, I'm producing content. Well, whatever it is, you know. To me, if it's got a glass screen or whatever, it's TV. You know, and you know, it's either on your phone, it's on a wall, it's in the way. You know, all of a sudden it's in our head. I don't know where it is. I don't know where it's going. But I think people still want to relate to people. I mean, you know, there are all these preponderances of. If I had $1 for every time somebody said, "Oh, I got this weather app. Guess you're out of a job." Well, guess what? I'm still here. Because I think people want context. They want connection, and so you know, I think in a sense technology has helped that in that, you know, people can share stories. You don't have to necessarily be on a TV station. You know, people are doing wonderful work online and, you know, with citizen apps and things like that, presenting stories. But I still think at the end of the day, it's still people want to connect with people. And those stories that connect with people are the ones that people remember.
But I think also, too, you know, people want to trust the person that they're getting their news from.
Right.
And I think that's something you've done such a great job at. I want to know what is something that you decided is something that you want to stick with that keeps people tuning back in every single day.
Well, listen, I do think, you know, I had my first news director was this guy named Andy Brigham. And this was in Syracuse, New York. And what he told me then, I think holds true today. I remember him telling me once there was a story that we aired, and it just was not a great story. And he said, listen, Roker, here's the thing. No matter how hard you try, no matter how many times you do it, you can't chrome plate crap, you know? And if it's not a good story, if it doesn't matter to people, no matter how you gussy it up, it's not going to matter. It's not going to hold up. And so I think the goal is to tell stories that matter to people, that make an impact in people's lives. Listen, that's why I've been so proud of the fact that at NBC News, you know, we've been doing this now for over 10 years where we've been talking about climate change. I think that it is the existential threat to our existence, and that, you know, you can argue whatever you want with what's caused it, but the fact is it's happening, and we've got to do something about that. And so, you know, and we don't try to say, oh, because this happened, it's climate change. No, it's when we can make scientific connections, that's what we do. And if you're honest and you are authentic about what you're doing, I think people respond to it. So I think that's kind of the ethos we have at NBC News. I'm not the only person doing that. So I really feel I'm proud of what we've done and what we've built and the show that I'm on and the news division that I work for, because I think that is, you know, there was an old TV show called Dragnet, and Sergeant Joe see, those are old people who know that. And I'm so ashamed. Because it's an easy joke, and I should. Anyway, his thing was just the facts, ma'am, just the facts, and that's kind of what we do. So you know, try to do just the facts.
I want to talk about your transition from being on the news to starting your own production company. Was this a slow realization, or is this something that you've always been planning for?
I wasn't. Here's the thing. Most of my career has been a happy accident. You know, like I said, I wasn't planning to be on TV. I wanted to do television production. I've always loved TV production, even when I was a kid. And so I early on got a chance to do a couple of specials for the Food Network through a former television executive at NBC that went over to run that. And I produced a couple of them. They did fairly well, and they asked me to do a series more. And I said, could I produce them? And they said, sure, why not? And so that's when I started my production company back in 1994. And in fact, I had a website starting in 1992 because I just was fascinated by the web, you know, the World Wide Web. You know, ooh, what is that? You know, there's that famous clip of Bryant Gumbel and Katie Couric going, what is the internet? You know? And if you Google it, it's really funny. In fact, they even, a few years ago, did a spoof of it for BMW with an electric car doing that. So anyway, no, seriously, if you Google it, you'll see it. Can you believe the time we've grown up that Google is a verb, you know? But so that's, I've always been interested in television and production. But I think the thing I'm really most proud of is what we've got coming out September 8th on PBS KIDS, seen here on PBS Arkansas, starting September 8th at 7:30 after Wildcrats. It's called Weather Hunters. It's an animated kid show. The dad, it's about a TV family where the dad is a television weatherman. He's bald, he's black, and he's incredibly good looking. I know all the moms will be watching. Come get a little of this, ladies. And his wife is Dot Hunter. She's a news producer. Al Hunter is portrayed by me. Holly Robinson Pete plays Dot Hunter. We have 3 wonderful kids actors who are playing our children. To give you an idea how long this show was in development, Benny Hunter is 5 years old. His sister Lily Hunter is 8 years old, and their older sister Corky is 12. My kids, when I first started developing it, were those ages. Nick Benjamin Roker is going to be 23 next month. Leela is going to be 27 in November, and Courtney is 38 with a 2-year-old granddaughter, or my granddaughter, which now I don't really need my children because I have a granddaughter. I'm that guy. I used to hear people talk about their grandkids, and I'd go, blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares. Shut up. And now I'm that guy. I just bought her a car. Does this feel like the longest day in your life, Sharonda?
It's the best day of my life.
Okay.
But I want to know, what's the gut check that you have when you decide what project you want to do?
It sounds corny, but and it held true then and it holds true now. Could my kids watch this? Would they be proud of me when they watch this? You know, and so far we've been able to do that. In fact, I showed them Weather Hunters, and they were like, oh, you know, and it was like, wow, yeah, they're actually proud of me. So yeah, that's really is it something my family is proud of, and so far we've been able. That's been my kind of my North Star.
You talked about that this has been in development for many years, even though you're getting younger each year. I wanted to know why was now the right time, and then also to talk about what the collaboration process with PBS Kids has been like developing this.
Well, I think now is the time because, and it's funny because it's been growing, I think, in that anytime I would speak at a school, every elementary school teacher would tell me the number one topic kids care about is weather. They're just really fascinated by weather. And I think with this emphasis on our climate, our environment, that we can teach kids about weather without preaching. We can teach. And I think when you know what causes a rainstorm or a thunderstorm, what causes a rainbow, we want to show them the awe and the wonder and the magic and the science behind weather. And what's been interesting is, as we've shown it to small audiences, I mean, this was really, this morning was the first public showing we've had. We've done private showings. And what's been really gratifying is that parents who are watching go, oh, I didn't know that. And so that it can be this co-viewing experience that everybody, and the best part about developing this with PBS is that I think when it comes to children's programming, they are probably the most trusted source of children's programming. You're not worried about, are they hawking something to your kid, or they, is there a hidden agenda? It's about educating children. And look, the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of places in this great country. There are over 330 public television stations in this country, and a lot of them serve communities, especially rural communities, that don't have any other local outlet. And that's important. It's really important. They are the sole source of news, of information, of public service, of community, and I think that's one of those things that that's that old Joni Mitchell song. You don't know what you've got till it's gone. And so I think it's very important that still remains a part of our media landscape. And they were the best partner to have in developing this, because not only are you developing a show that you make sure you want it to be a beautiful, entertaining show, you want to make sure that you are educating kids and reaching them where they live, so that while you're not talking over them, you're not talking down to them, and that they are safe. It's a safe. We would go through and we'd have our curriculum team, but then we also had our child, in a sense, safety team. That is it. Okay, are we going to scare kids with this as opposed to informing them and educating them? And so it really, there were parts of it that I wasn't really thinking about, that when it comes to talking about science and weather, that you want to make sure you are equipping, you're giving them the right tools to navigate not only their lives, but to be inquisitive, interesting, caring little human beings.
I want you to talk about the decision to go animated versus actually doing live action for this series, because you do want to introduce science, but you also have to keep kids' attention spans.
Well, I think, listen, I'm again, there was a time before, like on demand and 24-hour networks, that as a kid, you would wait for Saturday morning, the Saturday morning cartoons. That was like, you just parked yourself at around 8 o'clock and you didn't move, except to go to the bathroom and maybe get some food for like 3 hours. So I've always loved animation. In fact, my dream job, now that you bring it up, my dream job, I wanted to be an animator for Walt Disney. I've always been fascinated by the idea that you can create entire worlds, with the stroke of a pen. And so we thought that this would be a great way, a great medium to bring the magic of weather. And right now is the perfect time, because as you'll see, while it's computer-generated animation, it looks two-dimensional, but we're able to use three-dimensional effects for the weather. And I think it's, besides being entertaining and educational, I think it really is beautiful looking. And one of the things we did, my father's family is from Senegal, and we hired some folks to create music cue sheets that reference Senegalese music. So it's been a real fun exercise in creating a world that kids might not, and there's some fantastical stuff that, like, kind of almost an homage to Ms. Fribble and the Frizzle and the Magic School Bus. Al Hunter's grandfather created what he called the Vansformer, which was a 1980s van that's solar powered and flies. I'm just so proud of this.
Well, I want to make sure everyone can see a special look at the series. So we're going to go ahead and air a clip so you can see the beautiful animation that he's talking about.
Pretty good so far, huh? This is during the blackout.
Since it's Wallace Hunter approved safe, who's ready to take this mobile weather station for a spin?
I am. Me. All right.
Me too. Woohoo!
What?
Oh my.
This is so cool. Wow. Can you believe it, Marigold? We're gonna go for a drive.
Okay, weather hunters, here we go. Vansformer, please get moving.
Yay! Dad, we're not moving.
Thank you, Corky. I'm glad you pointed that out to me.
So, Dad, how do you make it go?
Good question, Benny. I'm not entirely sure how it...
Whoa. Look at that. Whoa.
Whoa.
What's happening, Al?
Our van has wings? You're seeing it here first, folks. If it has wings, that means it can fly!
Now I have to ask my mom, why didn't we have a flying van?
There you go.
I want to know, you wanted to be an animator, and you talked about you wanted to be behind the scenes, but you ended up in front of the camera. I want you to talk about the transition now into running your own production company, being in the voice booth for this series. How is it making that transition to behind the scenes now?
It's actually much easier than doing my day job because, if I choose to be in the booth recording my part, I don't have to have pants on. It's great. You'd be surprised how freeing that is. You know what I'm talking about. It's kind of fun in that, it just allows you to, exercise different muscles, and that is and you can take the time to do it. Animation especially is a very intensive production, to the point where we're doing 40 episodes for the first season, and we started a year and a half ago, and we've finished 22 so far. So it takes time to do this, and that's using computer-generated animation. In the old days of animation, when it was hand-drawn, it took even longer. So, and that's why if you look at a number of any of these animated films, feature films, they take 3 to 4 years to produce. But it's, when you see it all together, there's just this sense of awe. I never get tired of seeing that. Although, as my daughter Leela once told me, she said, Dad, nobody seems to like watching you as much as you do. Well, if I don't, who will,
I'm in awe of you saying that you have 40 episodes, you have 22 filmed, you're on TV. How do you find the time to do it?
Well, it's, I'm not, I think you find the time to do the things you love. You'll figure it out. And after a while, you learn, listen, I watched my mother raise 6 kids, balance a budget, and cook dinner constantly, and with no help. I'm like, how did she do this? In fact, I still own the house I grew up in, and I remember bringing my kids to see when they were old enough to really realize where we were, and they were like, "But wait, where are the other bathrooms?" That's it. That's all there was. And so you learn time management early on. Except for in fact, my mother would, my dad would be up there we used to call it the library, And my mother would go, "You've been in there 20 minutes. My father, "Who died and made you timekeeper?" Has nothing to do with anything.
I don't think we'll be seeing that on the series.
No.
You've blended so many different passions that you've had, from weather to your family to food. How have you found a way to define your brand while including everything that you love?
I don't know. I'm always a little leery of what's your brand? I think it's just, who are you? I'm somebody who's on TV, who likes food, for the most part, most of the time loves his children. Come on, if you've got kids, you love them all the time, but sometimes more than others. You just, again, it goes back to what Willard said, just be you, and I've been very fortunate that I've been able to be in a position to kind of satisfy those things that bring me joy. Being with my kids, being with Deborah, getting to, work at the Today Show, go to places and see things and meet people that I never thought I would. It just seems to find its way. And, some days are a little harder than others. But as I always said, my dad drove a bus for 8 hours a day, and he seemed to be a pretty good dad, and hung out and spent time with us. So, you figure it out.
I like that you bring up authenticity, because I think it's something that the younger generation is struggling with right now. You have social media kind of pressuring you to be one thing, that this is the right thing to be popular. What advice would you have for people, young adults, kids who are really struggling with presenting their authentic self to the world?
Yeah, I think you just have to, look, it is tough. I don't know what it would be like growing up now, when just for now it's bullying, something, if there was a bully or somebody in your class that you didn't get along with, well, that was your class. Now, your whole community, if you're being bullied online, everybody knows what's going on, and I can't even imagine that. That's really difficult. So I think, I don't know that I have any advice other than, try to live your life, as the kids say, IRL, as opposed to online. Don't worry about getting likes, and don't worry about, do the people you care about and respect like you? Do they care about you? And do you care about them? Can you, how many, that's like with Facebook, Are those people really friends? No, they're not friends. You know, they're people that you've connected with online, and maybe some of them happen to be friends of yours, but, you know, all those other. So I think real life connection is the most, the most important thing. And it's just, listen, I back in 1968. Yeah. So my name is Albert, and I was a heavy preteen, and Bill Cosby came out with a character. Hey, hey, hey. You walk into the schoolyard at St. Catherine of Siena after that NBC special aired that 8 o'clock at night, and you had a chorus of about 200 kids in the class in the schoolyard going, hey, hey, hey. But I'm okay. I got over it.
Is there anything that you still haven't accomplished? Or are there any new stories that you want to tell that you still haven't had the chance?
I don't know. Like I said, I didn't plan on this. I really do kind of take it one day at a time. Stuff happens. I mean, I never thought I'd be here. Geena Davis would come to the Today Show to talk about the Bentonville Film Festival almost every year, and it was like, oh, that's great, and we love having her here. But I never thought I'd be here, and here I am. So. You were a little slow on that applause. Pay attention.
Known for their stories, the powerful stories that they tell, getting into STEM, getting into grassroots organizations. I want to know, how are you making sure that you're institutionalizing diversity across the development, the production, and also to the leadership within the company as well?
Well, look, we have a very diverse management team, but we also want to tell stories that make a difference. And yet, again, the issue is you can have the greatest intentions, but if you're not telling a good story and telling it that will interest people, it's not gonna work. We did a documentary a couple of years ago called Gaining Ground, the fight for black farmland. In the early 1920s, there were 20 million acres of farmland owned by African Americans, and now it's down to less than 2 million because of Jim Crow laws, things like that, and now the fastest growing sector in farming are women and people of color, and trying to revitalize. And so we tell those stories. We tell stories about folks who are trying to make a difference when it comes to the political landscape. Not about ideology, just about inclusion and about getting people engaged, because this is our democracy. I think if you tell stories that people care about, they'll come and they'll watch. And so that's we do every year we do the Stan Musial Awards in St. Louis about sportsmanship. Stan the Man Musial was an incredible athlete, but also a real pioneer when it came to inclusion, diversity, sportsmanship, and we tell those stories. It's a special that I hate to say it airs each year on CBS, but it's important, and so that's part of our mission.
I love that. I want to know, what is a misconception that someone might not know about having your own production company, but especially when it bears your name?
The hardest part, and I think it's in any business, is that people are of good intentions and you like people and you work with them, but sometimes it's not always a good fit, and sometimes you have to part ways with people, and that's the hardest part, because I don't think I've worked with anybody bad. It just worked with some people who just weren't the right fit at the time. or things happened for them that, they realized maybe I wasn't the right fit for them. And so, you in the beginning, you don't want to, quote, hurt people's feelings, but you're not doing them any favors by not letting them know what issues there are, and then they have to, make a decision as are they willing to change? Are they willing to accept constructive criticism? And whether you've got that, but for the most part, it's a joy. And like I said, this show is one of those things that weather hunters, and even to the point, there was a time where especially a sitcom or a kid show had a theme song. They don't do theme songs anymore, and we're fortunate enough. We have a great, I think, opening that's sung by the terrific actress Yvette Nicole Brown, and I think we have a version of that.
Yes, we should have a clip. It should be loading it. If not, to add buffer, I can ask another question, though.
That's true. That's true.
But, in addition to the theme song, I do want to know, you have Holly Robinson Pete,
Yes.
in the series as well, and you have new child talent. I want to know, what was it like bringing all these voices to life?
Well, the funny thing about doing animation is that it's rare that you're in the same room with the folks you're acting with, so that I record my part, Holly records her part, Holly and the kids are in L.A., LeVar Burton plays my grandfather in the series. Our next door neighbor, Ms. Joyce, is portrayed by Cheryl Lee Ralph, and so, but we're never all together. We did one session together, so it's kind of a very solitary endeavor, but it's still fun. You're acting, but you're not using anything but your voice, but you still move around a lot. So, but I love it, and I love the cast that we have.
I love that. I do want to give a little bit of time for everyone to ask questions. Enough of me asking questions. So we do have a Q&A. So we'll just give it a few moments, and then we'll have some
Somebody
questions
will be
from the
walking
audience.
around with microphones, I think. Or no, they won't have microphones.
Yes, we actually have some questions people have submitted via the QR code. And the first one is from Keita. Her question is, what is the most memorable and impressionable way that weather forecasting has touched your life personally and made a difference to your life journey?
I think it was when I covered Superstorm Sandy. That was I think it was a game changer as far as what storm systems could do and the impact they could have. And I think for myself, it was like the first time where I thought, ooh, this is dangerous. I don't know that I need to be out here. But even more so, it was the idea. It was, I think, one of the first storms that kind of rang a bell for people as far as the impact of climate change on major storms. And so for me, that was a real turning point, both professionally and just personally.
Thank you. Our next question is from Autumn, who says, I'm a middle school science teacher in Bentonville. What can parents and teachers share from your experiences to encourage a career in science?
Well, I think parents and teachers don't tell kids what they're seeing. Ask them to try to figure it out. Let's not spoon feed them. And that's what Weather Hunters does. Al Hunter's a TV weather guy. He could easily answer the kids' questions, but his job is to lead them to ask the right questions and figure those things out. And so, and you know, like any hypothesis, they may not come to the right conclusion, and that leads them to move to the next conclusion or the next hypothesis. And so that's, I think, the growing up, our and listen, I'm as guilty of this with my kids, and try to change that. But we so don't want our kids to fail or to make mistakes that we are trying to protect them. And unless there's something physically going to happen to them, there's nothing wrong with them making a mistake. There's nothing wrong with them screwing something up and because as I've told you, no great discovery, big or small, was made probably on the first go round. It was a series of experiments or concepts that brought whoever was trying to figure something out to that point. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. Our next question is
Where's
from
that voice coming from?
I'm over here.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
I was hiding
Pay no attention to that.
from the clouds. Our next question is from Amanda. What is your favorite weather phenomenon, and have you witnessed it in person?
My favorite weather phenomenon, and it's fairly benign, but it's really stunning. The Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis. It's I was in northern Alaska and saw them, and it just takes your breath away. You're just like, wow. It's like this sky full of like just dancing light, and you're blown away. But as beautiful as it is when you see it on TV, when you see it in person, it is just mind-blowing. It's like, wow, this must be what it's like to be on LSD. This is fantastic, or so I've been told. You know what I'm talking about.
Okay, well, we have time.
Okay, we're just going to move on now. I don't know where to go. Now I know what Sharonda's going through.
We have time for one more question. This is from Grace, age 7. And she wants to know, of all the things you've done, what are you most proud of?
Being a dad. It is, well, look, and of course you can't be a dad without your significant other, with being, and Deborah Roberts is just, I am in awe of her, because look, no matter how much you think you are a involved dad, the kids at the end of the day still want mom. It's like, I haven't seen one football player after he scores a touchdown, hi Dad, but when you watch your children grow up, and you just are, and it is a cliche, but you go, where did that time go? And if you're fortunate enough, your kids are good human beings and compassionate human beings, and that's all. Somebody once told me, you're only as happy as your least happy child, and it's true. And so at least when you've got 3 of them, you've got at least 1 in 3. A 1 in 3 shot at somebody being happy, But on the other hand, they're out of the house now. So, as my dad once told me, can't miss you if you don't leave. As he handed me my hat.
It's like, how do I even follow that up, okay? But I do want to know, as threats like climate change loom larger, what role do you hope that a series like Weather Hunters plays in shaping the next generation's view on environmental consciousness?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, this next generation coming up is going to lead us. We're at the cusp now, I think, of a generational change in leadership. And I think this next crop of young people coming up, young people, are going to make a big difference. And so I think that's by doing this show, it'll help them form these crucial skills that they will say, we don't want to put up with this. We want some sort of change. And we're the ones who are going to have to deal with it, so let's make this happen. So, I mean, look, we're not doing a show where we're creating some radicals here, We're doing a show that kids will learn to ask questions and try to get rational answers. And that's, to me, the greatest gift we can hope for our children. That and Chick-fil-A gift cards.
I like that you talked about parents making sure that they're not trying to necessarily teach, but also to inspire thought with their children. I want to know what message, because this is just as important for adults to watch as well, learning about our environment. What message do you have for the parents, watching this with their kids as a family?
Well, I think, at the end of the day, you want the best for your children and grandchildren. And to realize that this isn't it's not a political statement, it's a survival statement. We want to leave the best planet possible for the next generation, because let's face it, we're just about baked. We're done. I'm hoping for another good 10 years, and after that, who knows? Maybe by then they'll have invented, we'll just be a big head in a jar, just sitting on a shelf, talking, and the kids can go, "Hey, Grandpa, what was that like?" But I just want that parents and adults think, listen, what at the end we want what's best for our children, and what's best for our children is a vibrant, healthy planet.
That was a quick enough clap this time, right?
Pardon?
That was a quick enough clap this time, right?
Yes, they were right on time.
Just making sure.
Hey, wait, is one of your nails The Incredibles?
Yes. That is correct.
Wow, that's fantastic. As Mr. Incredible says, we get there when we get there.
Look, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be
Do you really?
I do.
Okay. Big hand for Sharonda.
I needed that. Thank you.
You did a terrific job. I'm really sorry.
Nothing to be sorry about. You'll teach us in the next conversation how to age backwards.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, thank you so much. Thank all of you in the audience. Thank you for showing up today. Thank you for being here. I hope that you all watch Weather Hunters on PBS.
September 8th, 7:30 after Wildcrats.
Thank you.